today? I'm interviewing Frank Smith in his home in Beacon Falls, Connecticut. The interviewer is Zachary Keaton, working with Central Connecticut State University. Frank, what's your full name?
My full name is Frank Michael Mish.
Your date of birth?
I was born in 1916, November 26th.
So you just celebrated your 100th birthday. And what city and state do you live in?
Oh, I was born in Beacon Falls, right off of Route 42.
Okay. In which war did you serve?
I can't hear you.
In which war did you serve?
Oh, World War II. In the 7th Army, under Patton, invaded Sicily and Italy. TXC. It was a National Guard outfit, so they were all corporals and sergeants. They all disappeared.
What were some of the general locations that you served?
I can't hear you.
What were some of the places that you served?
Oh, well, I fought all the way up from Salerno in Italy, up to Cassino. Then they pulled us back, and then they put me into the Signal Corps, and I finished the war up around Lake Como, where Mussolini used to hang out.
Okay.
I used to deliver pigeons to the hospitals up front and different places, veterinarian hospitals, the old mules, skinners.
Yeah.
That was up around Lake Como. I also saw Mussolini. He was dead when I saw him.
Oh yeah? You saw him in the street?
Yeah. He was going we were under attack at night. Shrapnel flying all over. Buddy next to you will be dead in the morning. You didn't know it until you saw it.
Right.
It's hard to explain to you.
Okay.
See, there's nobody in the Army shooting at you, actually. When those shells explode, you never know.
Right. Well, let's go back a little bit. Were you drafted or did you enlist? You were drafted into the Army, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me, on tape here, the story you were telling me in the kitchen about being drafted?
Well, the draft, they had a number. And when your number come up, that's when you were drafted. You might have heard of draft dodgers and so forth. They used to get married and so forth. So the numbers would go little, but a single fella in good shape. They didn't change the number.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you quit your job, right?
Yes, I quit my job to get everything in order. And then when the draft came, I went. Yeah.
Do you recall the date that you went to?
You'd have to look on that paper I showed you. It's got the date.
Okay.
From boot camp, South Carolina. That's where, yes. That's where that picture was I showed you.
Okay.
That was the boot camp. And then I graduated to the 45th Division National Guard outfit at Camp Pickett.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your training in South Carolina?
Well, I was a hunter in my life, so I could shoot a gun. But some of the kids, they couldn't even hit the paper to the target. I can't tell you much about it.
What else did you do for training?
Well, what we learned then didn't have nothing to do with you actually committed,
Right.
found out.
Okay.
It just prepared you to take care of yourself, more or less, you know. Yeah. A boot camp those days, it wasn't much.
How was the living condition there in South Carolina?
Well, living conditions there were, you got your food, and another thing, you learned how to eat what they gave you. There was no picking. You went in a line and had big containers. He put his fork in there. If you got a piece of lean meat, you got lean meat. If you got fat, you got fat.
And that's what you got?
Yes. You ate it. At first you didn't eat it. Yeah. But then you were hungry. So after that you ate everything that was on your plate.
So then after that you went to Camp Pickett? After South Carolina?
Yes. That's when I joined the force.
About how long were you at Camp Pickett?
About 6 months.
Okay. And what did you train on there? Was it
Oh, we trained on wiring and climbing poles. We didn't have to do that in the Army.
Yeah.
No. Radios didn't work. Telephones, didn't work where we were. The Germans had better equipment than we had.
Throughout your entire time?
Yeah. They didn't use telephones because the enemy had listening posts. Radios the same way. It was altogether different.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Any what?
Any of your instructors from training?
No, I don't remember any of those.
Do you have any good stories to tell from boot camp?
Well, there was Captain Barnes was down there. He was an instructor too. He was a good man. But see, you don't see the contact much with some of those fellows.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the same thing, even in H Company, the most that you know is the fellows that in the barracks. Battlefield, you keep getting recruits. You see them one day, the next day they're gone.
Okay. How did you get through boot camp? How did you make it through boot camp? Was it experience?
No, for me it was easy. Like I say, I could hit the target anyway.
Okay. So then, after boot camp, where did you go to?
Well, when we joined there in Camp Pickett, we used to maneuver in North Carolina mountains. And from there, we went to Fort Devens, Massachusetts. While in Massachusetts, we went to Cape Cod, Fort Monmouth, on the Cape. There I got saw fellas. When we first got there, they took their clothes off and played in the water like kids. To me, it looked childish to see men act and picking up shells. They never saw water.
Oh, okay.
They never saw the shore. Yeah, so me being around here and fishing down in Milford all the time since a kid.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a difference.
So to me it was odd to see fellas acting the way they acted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you at Cape Cod for?
A couple of weeks. We used to invade Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, okay.
And most of the guys got poison ivy up there because of swamps. As you walked through the swamps, you could see the oil from the poison ivy floating on the water.
Oh, okay.
Yes, some guys were very allergic to it. They swelled up their eyes, they couldn't even see.
Wow. And it didn't bother you?
It didn't bother me, no.
So then after Cape Cod, is that when you shipped off to go over?
Well, on Cape Cod, they had towers built, rope ladders that like they'd run off ships, you know. So you climb up the ladder and down the ladder the other side.
Right.
Think about that thing. You know, maybe 10 foot.
Okay. So after Cape Cod, is that when you went to Europe?
Well, after Cape Cod, we went back to Fort Devens.
Okay.
Then we went up to Watertown, New York. They call it Fort Drum. They used to send National Guard up there for their training and vacation. So we spent the whole winter up there training. Mostly it was shoveling snow from one barracks to the other barracks. That barracks would shovel snow to the third barracks, and the third barracks would shovel to the mess hall.
And that's what you did while you were up in Fort Drum?
Yes. But they call that Pine Camp, too. They had outside a low building.
Right.
And even anti-tank gun, but it had a .22 mounted on it, and we'd shoot target practice.
Okay.
But it was inside of a building.
All right.
But it was cold. If you got a pass to go to Watertown, it was about 8 miles. And if you were there at 9, 10 o'clock in the city, the buses would stop running, taxi cabs would stop running. The vapor would be on the inside of frozen on the inside of your windshield.
Oh, wow.
So the MPs would go down the street, push you into the city hall or church. I slept quite a few times on stairs inside of a building. You know, you sit on one, and then they'd send the trucks down in the morning and pick you up.
Oh, wow.
It was rough.
Yeah.
40 degrees below zero. If you were on guard, and the sergeant had, say, 6 to 8 posts to plant. On a snowy night, he wouldn't replace you with another guy. He would take the whole crew, march around his post, my post, and 10 minutes in the barracks, warm up, and then we'd make the round again.
Oh, okay.
They never left one soldier on post when it was snowing.
Okay.
Because all you could see is that one light that you were standing under.
Right.
Yeah.
So then after being up there at Fort Drum, is that when you shipped off to Europe?
What's that?
After Fort Drum, is that when you went over to Europe?
After Fort Drum, we went back down to south, down to Aberdeen Proving Ground. We used to get on Liberty ships. To get off the ship, and we would engage Proving Ground. That was just as ready to go. There, I couldn't say. But maybe close to a month to get ready to get our ships ready.
Okay. Do you remember what ship you went on to go overseas?
Oh yes, the ship that I went on overseas was a converted passenger liner, a Susan B. Anthony.
Okay.
I slept on the deck under a landing craft.
Oh, wow.
Landing crafts were on sort of a V tied down the boat, the landing craft. Because I didn't want to sleep in that hole because it was tight and hot. And of course they had water, just so many gallons a day, fresh water. So you couldn't take a bath or nothing. It took 19 days to get over to Africa.
Oh, wow. And so for 19 days you slept on the deck?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did anybody else sleep on the deck like you did?
Well, we were in Africa for maybe 3 weeks. I remember getting a couple of cans of beer over there, but it was desert hot, so somebody came up with the idea. They took a regular 50-gallon thing and they punched a hole. In the bottom they had water to cover the cans, but up above the cans they punched a hole there. Well, they poured gas, open 50-gallon can. The gas used to evaporate and cool the water.
Oh, okay.
So they left that on us. So the next morning, they pulled the plug out, got the gas in a can, so they could use what's left over again.
Okay.
But they don't stir it, you know.
Right.
So when you pulled your beer out, it was cold.
It's very innovative.
And another thing, Africa too, the nights were cold, the days were hot. You wore your woolen clothes
Oh, wow.
all the time, because they said cotton would get wet and stick to you. The woolen clothes, the breeze would go through and it evaporate.
Right.
Yeah.
How long were you in Africa before you went up to Italy?
Well, I would say we were there for about 3 weeks anyway.
Okay.
And we got off to Susan B. Anthony on the small craft. That was an experiment. Everything I did was an experiment.
Yeah.
The sea was so rough that the destroyers would go in the wave. We couldn't go on the outside on the deck, the front of the ship. That was about 3 stories high,
Right.
you know, to the water, because it was so dangerous. The sea was very rough. The destroyers would go right into the wave and come out the other end.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad it was. And then when they lowered our landing craft, there was about 30 men on the boat. When they hit the beach and they dropped the front, by the time the guys got off, the waves were so strong they turned the boat sideways and tipped it over.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, but it got one outfit mixed up with the other. We had a couple of days before we could get our outfit together.
Okay.
It was all scrambled up.
Yeah. It
We
sounds
weren't
like
ready. Yeah. It was sort of a mixed up deal.
Yeah.
And I think one fella from Beacon Falls, Bud Fisher, that's our post is named after him, our Legion. He was in, I don't remember what company he was there, but he must have been killed because some of them boats hit a rocky shore, and the boats, like they say, were banging up against the guys that were hanging on the thing. We lost a lot of men.
Just getting off the boat. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we lost a lot of men. All the time your enemy is shooting at you. And they had the airplanes. We didn't have no air support. figure that out.
How did you get over to Italy? Take another boat and fly to Italy.
To go over where? Oh no, the Susan B. Anthony.
Oh, you put that up on the map?
Oh yes, yeah, we made the landing from there.
And where did you land? Sicily?
We landed in Sicily, down on the lower end, on the right of the English. Mama Etna was where the English were. So we fought until the English cut us off. We had to go back. We went up towards Palermo. We fought a few battles up there. Well, I'll tell you stories. You'd like to hear it. We were almost in Palermo, and our patrol always never went anywhere until they checked it. So the patrol went out. The bridge wasn't broken. It wasn't smashed up. It's hard to explain. You got two mountains, let's say. They had the road here, and the people valley here, another mountain. So they had a bridge across. So we were held up because we got fire from the top. But our patrol got across the bridge. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning when it started. 5 o'clock, they brought 5 soldiers, German soldiers. And don't let anybody tell you that if you're a soldier and you get captured, it was not only them. I saw Italians do the same thing. But this one German was a brave guy. He said something about an American soldier. And I'll show you a picture of the guy in our outfit. He had a Tommy gun. You know what a Tommy gun is?
Yeah.
So his buddy got hurt that morning. So when he turned around with that Tommy gun, he just cut that German in half.
Oh, wow.
That's the only brave soldier, German soldier I saw, and he's dead.
Yeah.
Then I had experience maybe the second day in Sicily. Marched up on top of the hill. We were in 2 Italian desert wagons. They used to draw artillery, small artillery like it, and it was a 4-wheel turn. So say for instance you want to make a left turn, so you steer left and the back wheels would go this way.
Okay.
So you could turn around just in this room. You know, you didn't have to make a swing.
Right.
So we reach the top of the hill, and there was a building down on the bottom. So we get to the crest of the hill, and we see about 20 soldiers marching up, Italians. So we jumped off. There was about 9, 10 of us on patrol that morning. That was about the 2nd or 3rd day on Sicily after the landing. So here's something that I remember real good. We told the kids, take their jackets off, smash their rifles, and like, I'm telling you, they're captured, right? They're showing us their pictures and all that stuff. And then they offered us some goat cheese. It was a square block about that thick.
Okay.
And geez, I can still taste it today. The smell of that cheese, it was awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, we let them guys go. So just as we were starting, we heard a motorcycle coming up. A captain with his driver.
Okay.
We fired some shots. The fellow laid the motorcycle down. The captain, he had his belt. Then they had a shoulder strap, goes down holds the belt up. And he had a Beretta. The Beretta on the hammer was open, like round. So it had a clip there. So when he drew that out, it would automatically cock the gun.
Okay.
Okay? So I took the pistol, a Beretta, and I had it here for a couple of years. But then I met a fella up in Lockport, New York. I says, Larry, I got to know the guy. I says, I'm not going to use it. I don't want it in the house. So I gave it to him. Holster, had an extra clip on the holster. Like I say. But as we drove down, we took that captain with us, his driver. We let him go. Told him to take his shirt off so he's not a soldier. So we get down there, looked in that shack, and there was landmines. I would say they were roughly 16 inches in diameter. And those kids, young 20 guys, they were supposed to lay those mines. So we were lucky that we got there before they laid them.
Yeah.
Now we had two vehicles. One of them we couldn't start. So the captain knew, the Italian captain knew what was wrong. They didn't have a fuel pump on those tanks. They had what they used to call a vacuum tank.
Okay.
Okay. So he took some gas out of the container and poured it into that tank, and he helped us to get away.
Oh.
But they took him as a prisoners. Yeah. So there was no such thing as a brave guy. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's the same thing. At Palermo, we're marching along, and just before Messina, that's on the North Shore, it was an artillery duel. They were going to make another landing, but it cost too many lives. So their artillery was firing at us, so we were small arms. You know, nobody was coming our way.
Right.
We looked down on the beach. Well, I can't say how many fellas, but one fella said, there's a German plane on the beach. And I remember another guy says, how the hell do you know it's a... Because one guy said it's a glider.
Okay.
Another guy says, well, yeah, because it has no propellers on it, so it must be a glider.
Right.
So I think about 3 or 4 of us walked down that cliff, and it had no landing gear, so it was smashed up a little bit. It was the first jet I saw in my life. I'm telling you, I see that jet today when I'm talking to you.
You still see it?
Would you believe it?
I believe it.
Yeah. So the Germans had a lot of stuff that we didn't have. But the only thing is, we kept getting supplies. That was General Patton. You've heard about him.
Yes.
He was commander of the 7th Army, and then when that was in Sicily and Italy, and they took him up to the 3rd Army. He was in the tanks. But his idea was, give me supplies, and once I got the enemy running, I see their back. Keep pushing, don't let them turn around, because once they turn around, they know where you are.
Right.
So he a lot of people at one time had bad things to say about him, but I can't say that. He knew what he was doing. Same thing. He was in the 3rd Army, he was a tank. He wanted to go right into Berlin. Our government and everybody, they stopped him from going into Berlin, let the Germans fight the Russians, let the Russians take half of it.
Right.
But he would have took Berlin, and that would have stopped the Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things to say. So what else can I tell you?
So after Sicily, you went up to the main part of Italy?
Yeah, well, I went all the way up to Lake Como. Let's see. I got pictures here, and I saw things that well, on the front lines you don't see no civilians, but then the civilians are coming back. They're in a hurry to get back home. Some of them have got a home, some of them don't have a home. The big cities weren't smashed, no, just around a railroad or something like that. You couldn't defend the cities. But my last camp was in Pigeon Outfit. We had a new captain then, Captain Bodner. That was the two officers we had in the 209. Bosco was the first one, and he got shipped back to the States because he was in Africa too. And Bodner was the last captain. Just 2 captains. I drove him to Venice. We rode in the gondola, and the first sergeant, because I was his driver, and we were in this schoolhouse, had 2 rooms, and there's a village there, and the kids knew when they was feeding time. And we had 50-gallon cans, hot water with soap, and the little kids bring their pans, anything they had. They wanted to scratch. That made me sick.
Yeah.
You see, people don't realize that, like you, for instance. Then people didn't have lights for months. They were eating, early in the spring, they were eating the leaves off the grapevines, cooking them. Then they used to get those snails underneath the bushes or hedges. They got like a round shell on them.
Yeah.
It's just a white slug in there. They used to put them in hot water and jeez.
Wow.
You see, you kids don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have electricity for a couple days and they're dying. those people come home, if they had a home, the mother couldn't go down to the store. There was no store. You understand?
Yes.
That's how people don't, and that's why I'm so mad about the high school. 40 teachers, they knew the program, and all of a sudden the teacher left, and it was not any work for that teacher. It was a half-a-day class.
Yeah.
And then the kids wrote up what they learned.
Right.
Now they learned from me not only about the war, but I could tell them all about Beacon Falls.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Yeah. That's, see, people don't care. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
So,
So what else can I tell you? If you got time, we'll go through some of the papers if you want to look at them.
can you tell me more about
What's that?
Can you tell me more about the pigeon outfit and how that worked?
The pigeon outfit. Let's see.
You don't have to get it. You can just tell me the story.
You can go to that pile there.
Okay.
There's a book there about the pigeons, and the only place you can read about the pigeons, you can mark this down for your own reference. Pigeons That Went to War is the name of the book, by Gordon Hayes. He was in our outfit. He collected everything about what the pigeon outfit was doing. There was only one outfit.
Right.
209 Signal, 149 fellas, counting the 6 officers. He was supported by the Racing Pigeon Association. You know those clubs that... Yeah. Now, some of those clubs are rich people. You know, there's a lot of money in it. I can show you books there. And he tried to give all his collection to the Army, because the Army wasn't collecting it. Can you imagine that?
That's strange, yeah.
So he was getting old, and so they finally settled to some museum in California. Okay? And he printed 150 books. You can get on Amazon, you can buy a used book sometimes. You know, old veterans, they die and people get them, they don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so a used book, if you're lucky, you can buy it. And if you can buy it for cheap, it'll be worth a lot of money. Some of them run. My nephew says he used to see book $40, $50, $800, $4,000.
Wow.
But in that book, pick it up, I can show you the difference. There's a magazine there and that book. See My Pigeon Law, you know, the ones we had, and the ones that are in Fort Monmouth that look like house trailers.
Okay.
Would you want to see them? You'll have to.
We can look at it later.
Yeah.
But could you tell us how they use the pigeons on the battlefield, like you were telling me in the paper?
The pigeons on the battlefield combat pigeons. They don't have to fly 500 miles or 400 miles. We used the pigeons, and another thing, we had the smaller logs, because we never had to use 40 pigeons in one clip. You understand?
Right.
So, if a patrol went out today, they take some pigeons with them. Then they fly back to the message center, which was normally division headquarters. And then you had 5th Army message center, where those message centers would get the messages, bring them to a location.
Right.
So, in other words, I used to bring pigeons to the hospitals because we worked in groups of 4 men and 2 pigeon lofts. So, the fellow I was with, he couldn't drive. Sidney Ober, he was a New York boy. But I would deliver the pigeons. The pigeons would fly back, and a pigeon is registered. They have a band on, and you have a logbook. So when you bring 5 pigeons to the hospital, that's 5 days supply. The pigeon flies back. You take them. Somebody in that bunch will take that pigeon to the message center.
Okay.
That's what we use pigeons for. Patrol work. A lot of guys that went out on patrol like that. Some of the boys got captured by the Germans because they had men going out too. See what I mean? So some of our pigeons came back with a message that the Germans wrote. See, the pigeon always comes home. People think you send a pigeon out. No, you bring him out and he'll come home. So, there was, in that book, was pictures of a news reporter using pigeons. He was maybe out in the front lines somewhere, but he has a couple of pigeons. He flies back with clear. He can get his messages from message center. What's that? No, I had pigeons when I was a kid. I lived right up this street here when I was a little boy.
No, I mean, were you ever had
Oh, no. Well, I had a few injuries, but at that time, our medics had no cross, and he got blown up like the rest of the guys. So the book went and everything went. I tried to get some information back in the 80s. They said my records burned up. On the front lines here, you don't know. Your odds of coming out. But if you see in a week's time, you see 30, 40 guys gone, when am I gonna go? You never figured you were coming out. See, like I told you, there's no guy shooting after that one. They shoot across the river and stop looking across trying to get across. Those shells go over and they blow. People think that shell is one bullet. No. That's shrapnel. And a big gun and a piece of shrapnel. Well, let me tell you. There was a guy from Brooklyn, Moglia. He used to carry the tripod, the water-cooled tripod, here and one down. Crossing the blown-out bridge. You say, well, while you're climbing over those girders and that, if you go on the side, you get blown up. But the bridge is blown up. That's the only safe place to go. But I remember Moglia was his name. His name is in the book. He said, hey Frank, you know, things are getting worse and worse. Look what happened. I remember that. That's the last word I ever talked to the guy. Yeah, he got hit with shrapnel. Got him out of in the 45th. And we were supposed to go up the front tonight. And the mess sergeant picked up 4 loaves of bread. The bread was about this square, about that high. I think he got 4 loaves of bread for 200 guys.
Wow.
So, Snoozy Johnson was going by. He used to chew snuff, you know, he'd just talk, but he was a sort of a, not a heavy kid, but a big kid, you know, from Colorado. And he says to me, Frank, I don't feel like going up tonight. The last words I ever heard from him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you don't know when your number's up.
Yeah.
Now, my first sergeant, Cromer, got captured. The Germans retreated. We were moving into their area. They dug a foxhole this way and that way. So like a corner.
Yeah.
So if the enemy was coming this way, he'd stay in that narrow place or that way. Cromer was down on my right, and I don't know what other outfit was on his flank. But the Germans attacked us with tanks. You see, their troops withdrew, but they had them tanks hidden there. So they come right through our force. So Cromer, and they said that about 100 guys got captured that night. But I remember jumping into a German foxhole, which you never do.
No.
Because before they leave, they used to mine them. But it was either me or the tank. I jumped in. The tank just rolled over one corner. Big heavy equipment to fight them tanks.
Yeah. Wow. Was there anybody in the foxhole?
Yeah. So I jumped in the foxhole. The tank just rolled over my leg. No, the Germans got through it. That's why we moved into their area. But their tanks, they had them hidden.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
What's that?
How did you stay in touch with your family?
I can't hear.
How did you stay in touch with family? Did you write letters home?
Oh yes, you want. There's a box there by the register in that kitchen.
Oh,
You ever see them?
no, so we can look at them later. Okay.
They had special forms, and they'd never see my dad wrote a special form. I thought that photograph.
How was the food while you were over in Italy?
Well, the food on the front lines, you don't call it food. On the front lines, in the wintertime, all we ate for 5 months was hash.
Oh, wow.
You take a can, shove it underneath your coat, because you had your underwear, then you had your shirt, then you had a sweater, then you had a jacket, and a big coat, and for wind, raincoat on.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
And that's how you figured out the map?
Yes. Had potatoes. So you could dig it out with a spoon. No such thing as a hot cup of coffee or hot water. You had that too. It was cold.
Wow.
And if you tried, sometimes they had stew, in hot weather. You couldn't eat stew without heating it
Yeah.
because you get a sour stomach.
Yeah.
So, and then you got another can. It had 3 crackers in it. We used to call them like milk crackers, they used to call them. And you got 3 cigarettes in a little package.
Yeah.
And you got a couple pieces of hard candy.
Wow.
You could take it was compulsory that when they brought the rations and dumped them, that you take 3 days' supply that you got to live on. So you could take whatever you want, but that's all they had
Wow.
in the cold weather. We didn't shave for 5 months. There's a book there. You can get Bill in the Army, Navy, all service gets a newspaper called Stars and Stripes.
Right.
Now, I don't know what city you come from, but in Naugatuck they have a dollar store. And I go through there, and I always go through where they have the sodas and so forth. Their sodas is Stars and Stripes.
Oh.
It reminds me of the Army. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Bill Malden used to draw the cartoon. If you go home on a computer, Bill Malden's World War II cartoons, there's 421 cartoons.
Wow.
In the middle of this book, there was a special cartoon in color. I got it here, but it's fallen apart. And it has a small cartoon here, and in the middle there's a soldier sitting down and he's got his pickaxe and the point is bending because the surface is hard.
Yeah.
And it's got the Thunderbird patch on his shoulder. This was the color. When my nephew was a little boy then, he was here for my birthday from Florida. He says, that's Uncle Frank. But that centerpiece was special. The Stars and Stripes put it out special for Bill Malden's Christmas 1944.
Oh, okay.
But in that book, it won't tell you it's 45th Division or something. On the original sheet that they made, you know, for Bill Malden, it says 45th Division.
Okay.
But you will know that it's 1944 Christmas edition. It's about in the middle of that book.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go on a computer, you'll get a picture of the book. The front wheel is stuck in a hole. And the guy's got a dirty old soldier, like I told you. We didn't have a roof over our head. Weather like this, rain, snow, there was no buildings.
Right.
No. So he's got his pistol out and he's shooting that Jeep. That's a picture of that book.
Okay.
You'll see a guy stripped down to the waist, sitting on a dirt road. Another soldier standing up. Got a towel on his shoulder, and he says, "Geez, I need a bath too, but that water's dirty." Thing like that.
Yeah.
He used to draw the cartoons from what he saw.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a book like that, someday, if you have a family or something, they'll have something to remember.
Right.
Yeah. I got the book. I can give you an idea what it looks like.
Okay.
So you can mark it down for yourself.
Okay. Did you ever feel pressure or stress?
A what?
Did you ever feel pressure or stress? Did you ever feel stressed while in the field?
No. You just forgot about everything.
Okay.
You never thought about anything anymore. You just existed from day to day.
Okay.
Now, when they gave me my discharge in Fort Evans, I left the barracks bag in that corner where they gave me the discharge. All my clothes is what I had on my back. I had a camera when I got into the Pigeon Corps. When you're on the battlefield, you don't carry nothing.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
No, you haven't got nothing. Maybe a pair of socks. They dump you off a couple of pairs of socks. Yeah. No, see, like I say, you don't know. It's like, say somebody's shooting at you, but he shoots your buddy, your buddy, your buddy. So you just say, when's my turn coming? See what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just an everyday operation. It doesn't do you any good to think.
No.
See, I learned that from my father. He always used to say, don't worry. He says, worry will kill you. So don't worry, he says, you're going to live till you die. Think about that.
Yeah. How did you guys entertain yourself?
There was no entertainment. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
There's no such thing. There was, when I was in Florence, down cellar. I met a kid in Florence, a college boy, and on the outside of the lower end of the city, there's a park, and that's where they got us fellas ready to ship back to the States. Different outfits gathered in that park, you know. So the mess sergeant in my company used to go to the prison camp and get German soldiers, cooks. And with our ingredients, it tasted altogether different because they had professional cooks.
Yeah.
Compared to our cooks.
Right.
It tastes different. So I got a job there because I was Jeep driver, you know, for the, like I told you, for the captain. So I used to go pick up the mail in the city. There was a spot there. As I'm coming down towards the river, I had to make a right along the river. There was a gray stone. I've never paid much attention to it. So, but like I say, everything is different now. But that kid showed me a lot of stuff there. Yeah. Yeah. But on that stone there was something about memorial to Christopher Columbus or something like that. You know, it was a monument. Yeah. And I got a picture of our cook up there. There was a hospital, and Captain Bodner in that building, and then there was like a nice walkway in there, and the wall all around it. On top of the wall there was glass, broken glass.
Yeah.
So you couldn't climb over.
Oh, okay.
So our cook was a Southerner. I got a picture of him on a boat coming back. And so every third day or fourth day he'd get off because he used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to cook your breakfast, you know. So this was after the war, almost. And he'd get some wine, he'd get feeling good. And when he got feeling good, he's coming back home. He didn't know where the hell the door was to get into the house. So he'd go along the wall there and he'd say, whirly, 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 whirly. That's right. You know, he was half in a sack all of that. Yeah. See, these are things that you still remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What was your homecoming like?
Huh?
What was your homecoming like?
My folks?
No, your homecoming. When you came home, how was that?
Well, I came home like from Fort Evans to New Haven, come Whaley Avenue to the end, to the tunnel, then picked up 63 and got a ride to my home.
Yeah. Did your brothers get out at the same time as you?
Oh no, everybody got out different times. No. No, you got different times. They can't get everybody out at the same time, you know.
Yeah. So one brother was in the Air Force, and what was the other brother in?
Yeah. The youngest one was the last guy. He was in the 66th Division in southern France.
Okay.
And he landed right alongside the 45th. And if he was here today, he would tell you that I won the war for him.
Oh, really?
Because he knows I didn't have no air support, we didn't have a good line. When he got off the boat, there was nobody shooting at him. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my division, like I said, Anzio was a bloodbath. I didn't have to go there. But then they made the southern invasion. They didn't have much trouble, but they were all new men because I wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And even on the casino front, San Pietro, we took that, and they moved us back, and that's where I was bodyguard for General. They moved us back to Venafro. Yeah, it was, to think back, it's hard to believe that I'm still here.
God bless you.
Yeah. Well, now, see, here's another thing I can show you. An Army division, see, average person don't know that. It's 15,000 men. Of course, you get other outfits supporting division, like tanks and heavy, but it's not that division. We had over 27,000 casualties.
Wow.
Now, I used to go to the high schools, and I used to enjoy it. It come to the fact the kid would ask somebody, you know, out of the class, how many men and so forth. So you told them there was 15,000 men in the division, you had 27,000. Now here's a senior getting out of, and he'd ask you, well, how can you lose 27? You started with 15.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I can tell you, there was one teacher that he told it as it is. He says, if I ask you, Mr. Miss, 25 and 4, right away it registers 29, right?
Right.
He says, if I said that to a kid, if he ain't got that little thing in his hand in the computer, there's a hesitation.
Right.
So what do you think?
I don't know.
To tell you, it's a lot different today.
It is. So after you got home, you went back to work at the same factory?
I got back to the same factory, and those guys that were left behind, they got all promotions, and the guy that had the same job I had, but in a different department. See, we made waterproof shoes, then we made the boots, then we made the sneakers, like the kids, you maybe saw them around here.
Yeah.
So they all got promotions. So when I went down to the employment office to sign in, says, Frank, what would you like to do? I says, someplace where I can take it easy for a while. So I was a tester, and then we went into synthetic rubber. So we had a lot of damage because stuff didn't stick or something. So they gave me a job, head of a repair department. So I had about 40 kids, or older men working. I'd have to show them how to repair stuff, you know. And from there, they put me into the lab. Well, when they put me into the lab, I didn't work for the lab. They had a lab man, you know, the boss, but you had a lot of supervisors. Now the supervisors were college men. They didn't know nothing about rubber. Some of them took biology courses and all that shit, you know, didn't mount nothing. So all these guys in the departments were superintendents, and I knew them before. And some of them even became factory managers. We had 6,000 people working in that rubber company at one time.
Wow.
So they put me in the repair department. So that went well. And after that, I was a troubleshooter. I didn't work for my department, but I was assigned to different, because they had to pay my salary somewhere.
Right.
But each department would have to. So if it was a plastic department, he had a understudy working with him in the department. If they couldn't do anything, they'd get a hold of me. I was the last straw.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I worked from one end of the mill to the other. I worked for the superintendents and the factory managers and all the upper.
Right.
If they had a problem they couldn't solve, they called me.
Yeah. Did you make any close friendships from your time in the service?
Well, they were all my friends.
Did you stay in touch after the war?
You mean the Army fellas?
Yeah.
No. The last fella was in the pigeon outfit. He died 2 years ago. He lived in Stanford. Jimmy I. Anner. Now, Rosa DeLauro's girl up in Naugatuck. I was talking to Jimmy, I says it was Easter. And I think I went talk to the girl up there, and I says, so she says on the computer she got him. He says, he's passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But after the war, there was another fellow in Bridgeport, Jersey, and he went into the eyeglass business, but then something happened. He moved to Florida and he just passed away. Then there was Nardone in the Bronx. He got about 4 or 5 of us guys. I know he got Williams to come up from Florida, and he had a little party for us one time.
Oh, nice.
You know, a get together. But they all gone. I'm the only guy left. See, nobody wants me,
Yeah, they
but
do.
somebody up there is looking after me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
Just the vets. And I did belong to the town committee in Beacon Falls, because I was always independent. I never joined a party. But then, this is before your time, we had a fellow running for governor, and according to the population, the Republican Town Committee could only have 24 members. I went to this meeting. There was only 13 of us at that meeting. And the chair hits the table and he says, we gotta get 10 people to go to 5 conventions. This Meskel was running for governor. So one joker gets up and reads. He's got to get 5 conventions, 10 people. So-and-so, so-and-so. So they elect the... So there's 3 of us not elected. So now the hammer goes down and the chair says we got to get 5 alternates in case somebody gets sick. So another guy gets up, or was it a woman, and says, out of the 10, they get 5 alternates. They left the 3 of us sitting there. So I get the floor, and I heard a voice. There he goes again. And I says, I got the floor now, and after I tell you what I think it is, I'm going. I says, you had a convention at somebody's house. You couldn't say that we had a meeting at Sunday, so because we had the meetings on Thursday, so it would be in Friday's paper.
Right.
So I says, today is Thursday. Tomorrow you can write it up in the paper. So after I said my piece, I says, I heard that call and I told you I'm going. So I'm going. This is my last time. You see, there was... How the hell... Pick the alternates, give that other 3 guys a chance.
Right.
They're maybe never gonna do that. But you see what I mean? Politics is a cruel game.
It is.
It's no good. I couldn't belong to a party like that. No.
So, how did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general? How did your military experience influence your thinking about the military or the war in general?
Well, like I said, it was good and bad. It's, like I said, when I was watching that general, he lived in a one-horse trailer dug into the ground, you know, about maybe quartered away anyway. And they had a shelter half where he'd go out in the morning, he'd have to go, you know, so they had a hole dug for him. After seeing him maybe 4 or 5 days, you know, you salute him. One morning he comes over and he says, "Soldier." I said, "Yes, sir." You know, you gotta look sharp. He says, "When you salute me in the morning, sir, soldier, it's like saying good morning. I'll be around here all day. Don't have to salute me." A second lieutenant, now I'm telling you, they're rebuilding the outfit. Some guy that just got out of college becomes a second lieutenant. Okay? If you didn't salute him, he'd bite your ass.
Oh, wow.
And he'd be running back and forth, you know, paperwork and so forth. And there's a general says, salute me in the morning. It's like saying good morning. So I found that the higher the officer, the better they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did your service affect your life?
Well, you never know what I was planning to do. I used to like to ride motorcycles. I had a good life. I fished. I traveled the United States. I had a buddy. And this year, we'd take a month off. We'd go, hey, Steve, let's go to New Orleans. Okay, so we both get the month off. We go, well, which way shall we go? Well, let's go through North Carolina and let's go through the Smoky Mountains and different roads, you know. Just, our destination was New Orleans, but if there was something to see, and you know, we travel. We went out west through all the canyons. So there's a lot to see. Now, are you familiar with this side of the Connecticut?
Yeah.
Well, do you know where Stevenson's Dam is on Lake Shore?
No.
You don't know? Well, if you take the river from Derby and come up the river and you want to go to Newtown, you got Stevenson's Dam holds back the water to Lake Shore, okay? The road goes right over the dam. There's only one more dam that's like that in the United States.
Which is it?
It's out west, Boulder Dam.
Oh, okay.
You've heard of that?
No.
Well, okay, so there's only two dams like that.
And you got to see it?
Yeah.
Nice.
No, you travel, you know.
Yeah.
I found out that's, you learn a lot.
Right.
And I tell you too, you get up on the Grand Canyon and there's a lookout place, but you don't even want to get close to that guard there because you're pulling, it's so awesome, you get scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're feeling the wall here, but you could go all the way over there and be safe. But there's something about it, yeah.
Right. Well, Frank, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, like I say, if you're going to have us pictures, you should take this whole family. Now, I'll show you all the stuff I got over there. I worked for the rubber company for a long time. I had responsible jobs. I never got into trouble with nobody. I always did what I could. We had engineers, and when that department had trouble, we had meetings, and I says, I want this and I want that. I think we'll solve our problems. Well, and the engineer said, well, how in the hell am I supposed to do that? That's your problem, not mine. This is what I want.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember one time I had a sort of a supervisor, because like I say, I always had supervisors because I would be charged at different departments. he says, Frank, just before quitting time, he says, I got a problem down in the gate room. Would you bring down a couple of cans of this and that? I said, okay, Peter. And he was in that German youth camp, you know. I guess just before the war broke out, you know, so he had some problems, I guess. So that morning I'm down there, I brought the stuff he wanted, and he comes down with a big wheel, you know. Frank, did you bring that stuff? Yes. I says, you're all set, Pete. I don't know what the hell he was going to do, you know. So, but the way, he says, did you bring any diaper cloth? I don't know what the hell you're going to do. Well, he says, I don't know exactly what he said, but he wasn't very nice about it.
Right.
In front of the big wheel that he brought with him. See, I knew the big wheel better than he did. I said, well, damn it. Maybe that's what he said to me. Well, I said, damn it, you never did say that, Peter. Well, so he comes back to the lab and he says, you know, I could have you fired. I says, you could. I says, you try. I says, I was here before you, I'll be here after you. So he wrote out a big slip. I don't care what I was working for management, not for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they had a meeting every day about production and the damage in the packing room. Superintendent had always a white shirt, just flipped over like that. He's got his assistant, Pat Martin from Woodbury, walking down from the second floor to their office. And I happened to be running through there for something. And he says, hey Frank, we got so many pair of these shoes. What can you do with them? I said, they could be fixed. Well, take it and fix it and bring it back so I can, you know, put it back into production. I says, hey Ed, I can't take it. Why can't you take it? I says, my boss says everything's got to go through him. So he goes, I got to go through him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've been working with the top management all the time.
Right.
You know how long that guy was in there?
How long?
I don't think he lasted 2 months, and out he went.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, I'd like to thank you for your service and for your time to be interviewed today.
Well, like I say, why don't you sit down? I'll see what I can show you.